So, Only the River Flows, which is a Chinese neo-noir crime thriller by Wei Shujun, who made Striding into the Wind and Ripples of Life. Also, he co-wrote the screenplay for this, which is based on Yu Hua's short novel Mistakes by the River, which I haven't read. So this played in the uncertain regard category at Cannes last year and went on to become one of China's most successful independent movies. It opens with a quote from Camus. The quote is, "We do not understand destiny. That is why I have made myself destiny. I have assumed the foolish and incomprehensible face of the gods." So this tells us right from the beginning, this isn't just going to be a murder mystery or a police procedural. It's going to be about fate, destiny, power, powerlessness. So Zhu Yilong is police chief Moje, who is investigating a series of murders. I mean, there's one murder at the beginning and then there are more in a rural town in China in the 90s. And at first, the case seems fairly clear cut and there's an obvious suspect and there's an early arrest. And this pleases his superiors. But things soon start to unravel in a very sort of existential fashion. Firstly, he has his own personal issues. His partner is pregnant, yet he's more consumed by his work than he is by his home life. But he also seems to be having some kind of quasi-Nietzschean breakdown. You know that thing about if you look long into an abyss, the abyss also looks back into you. And there's a bit right at the beginning when this kid says to him, "If you find the baddie, can you show him to me so I can see what he looks like?" And there's this whole thing about, well, what is the face of the baddie? And so also the office that he's working in is a now derelict cinema, which adds another layer of sort of self-reflexivity to the whole thing. So the director said of the source novel that it deals with, this is a quote, "the excessive weight of the collective spirit weighing on the individual and the solitude of the latter in the face of an absurd world," which actually, weirdly enough, is a pretty good description of the film, which he also talks about the way in which it subverts the traditional detective narrative, because the mystery of who the killer is isn't really the center of of the story. It's there's a much more sort of avant-garde thing going on, and actually, so it starts as a kind of what looks like a police procedural, and it is a genre film, but it then becomes something far more kind of arty and hallucinatory. And actually, weirdly enough, I've been watching Twin Peaks again recently. Do you remember the original Twin Peaks, the first two series of Twin Peaks? Did you watch it when it was first on television?
I did, yeah.
Well, there's that whole weird thing that Cooper is doing this kind of Buddhist thing alongside, there's the throwing the stones and there's the visitations from the giant and there's the understanding his dreams. Well, there is a bit of that going on in this. And I was reminded of that same, atmosphere of kind of disorientation. There's also a scene towards the end of it, which, the French Connection, the William Friedkin film, The French Connection. At the end of The French Connection, it's like, that starts as a procedural. And then the Popeye Doyle character just becomes so obsessed with the crime that he ends up chasing himself. And there's an element of that in this as well. I mean, I thought it was really fascinating. It is about the way that the more you try and outfox destiny, the more it will end up, biting you. And the director said this thing about it's about the more you try to discover the meaning of life, the more likely you are to miss it. I mean, I thought it was really good. I knew nothing about the story before. And as I said, I haven't read the source novella, but I thought it was really atmospheric, really kind of melancholy and visually arresting. And it was a real pleasure because I knew nothing about it before I saw it. And I was really sort of drawn into it in that kind of Angel Heart way that, you think you're watching one thing. I mean, it's not quite like Angel Heart, which of course is a supernatural thriller. It's not supernatural, but it is about that thing. If you look long enough into the abyss will look back into you. And, at least that's what I thought it was about. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have to say I enjoyed it very much as well. It's also interesting that it's set in the sort of, is it the late 80s or 90s?
It's 90s. I think it's 90s, so, but it's in the past, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's pre sort of, the internet and all that kind of stuff. So there's a different time thing, or the way that people dealt with things and investigated things was very different. It was kind of analog at that time. And so I thought that was an interesting time at which to set it.
I was forgetting when I was reviewing it that, of course, you've seen it. What did you think it was about, Sanj?
Initially, I thought it was a police procedural. And then the more it went on, the more I kind of realized that wasn't the point of the film. And actually, it was much more about the elusiveness of kind of answers. And that, whether you get an answer or not, time, life, destiny moves on. And I thought that was the river metaphor, because so much of it happens around this river in this kind of small town. But and with the cinema thing, setting it at the cinema as well, his hallucinations become more cinematic as they go along as well.
Yes, and in fact, there's one sequence when you actually see that thing about the frame of film burning out, which is a kind of classic image that I suppose actually there's now a whole audience who actually wouldn't know what that is, but it's when the film jams in the gate of a projector and it kind of burns. And I thought that was really beautifully done. I thought those sort of dream sequences were absolutely brilliant. Did you get the Twin Peaksy thing that I got, or do you think that's just me?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because once it went into kind of hallucinatory territory, then almost that's such a benchmark for doing that cinematically that yeah, I thought of that as well.
So 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
Well, at least a thumb and a half. I salute myself. He can salute himself.